I want to welcome founders of Ultraviolette, Neeraj and Narayan.
Have the clicker.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are we audible? Cool. Glad to meet all of you all here today. Vishesh, Arjun, thank you for the opportunity to be part of this long journey with you over the better part of the decade. And I think we have the honor of getting all of you energized post-lunch. And I guess what you see behind us is really high voltage stuff, should do the job. And to get started, I think we'd like to spend the next 10 minutes or so talking more about the journey of Ultraviolette and what it's been like for us as founders to get into the hardware startup ecosystem in India at a very nascent stage. We started back in 2016, and what the journey sort of been like to get to where we are today. And I'm Narayan, and
I'm Neeraj.
And
yeah.
we're both friends for a really long time, known each other for over 20 years now. Same school, same university, worked on several projects together. So our fair share of ideation, innovation started back in our time at school. And I think that today is the DNA of the company. And so let's get started with what just happened this month. In fact, as recent as 2 weeks back. What you see behind us here is the F99. This is a concept motorcycle, India's first superbike. And when we talk about it being a superbike, we're talking about IC or electric, all of these motorcycles that we've ever seen in India. This outperforms every single thing over the last 3-4 decades, right? And we've achieved that in the last 8 years. Now, so this has a spec sheet of say 265 kilometers an hour over 120 horsepower, and I'm not getting into too much of that right now, but those who understand bikes, you know this is a great deal of performance packed between those two wheels, right? And we just unveiled this as part of Ultraviolette's foray into the global markets. The photos here are from the event called EICMA. This is held at Milan every year. It is the world's largest exhibit or expo for two-wheelers. And I think Neeraj and I, when we even coined the term ultraviolet, the spelling of violet is actually violette, the French spelling of violet, right? And we were clear that we want to spawn this into a global brand. And some of the companies that have inspired us in the past are companies like Sony. Sony made Japan cool, right? It frankly did. Companies like Apple, you know, the whole era of the iPods. The iPod changed what the music scene was like. So these are the sorts of innovative products and businesses that inspire us, and we sort of aim to scale to a similar or greater level, right? That's the intent. And as part of that, November marked our entry into the global markets. The formal plan is to launch in Europe by 2024 with the product called the F77.
So a little more about the F77. So this is actually our flagship product in terms of what is already in production. This is what we developed since 2016 and was launched earlier this year in March. So several hundreds of these vehicles are already in the hands of consumers in Bangalore and 5 other cities. Some of the vehicles have started going outside India. This marks the sort of first moment for us where it scaled outside India, where we started to get interest from, you know, all of the European countries for this particular electric motorcycle. So I think what is important here is that for us, this wasn't sort of a easy or a quick sort of development process from 2016 to 2023 to build out all of the technologies, build out all of the capabilities, and get it up to a level which will be sort of looked up to in any part of the world. And that's what we've achieved. And that's what happened when we put out the bikes in Milan earlier this month. And we instantly saw the reaction from, you know, hundreds of distributors, hundreds of consumers. Everyone wants to get their hands on these vehicles. What's also happened since we first showcased a little bit of these vehicles in 2019 and 2023 is where it went into production, is that sort of organic demand from consumers started to come in from different countries. And what was very interesting is that today there's demand from 190 different countries. There are only 195 countries, and 190 of those countries, there are people looking to buy these bikes. Right? So that's the kind of attention that we have gathered. That's also completely organic. There's no marketing running in all those countries, but there are people talking about these bikes, and that is what the F77 is. Right? Now, this is sort of the end result of 7 years of research, development, engineering, lot of effort from, the team which scaled from initially 2 of us, 5 of us, 20, 50, now 300. And I think what you're seeing is the more glamorous part, but we'll also talk about, the journey that we've been through, and there's a lot more exciting stuff there as well.
So sort of trying to skim through the tech stuff. I mean, if you want to do a deep dive on the tech, happy to do that. Both of us are very geeky, but not possible to cover 8 years of that sort of development in about 10 minutes. So we'll keep it slightly on the higher level of what it's taken to get to this point, right? And to begin with, I'd like to highlight what our vision was to start with. Our vision was to accelerate innovation. We never got back to India. I mean, to give you some context to that, I was working in Europe. Neeraj was in the US, and I think 2015, we both got talking. 2016, made the move back to India and started the company. And our goal was simply accelerate innovation. There's so much happening in other spaces. And from what we've been observing, the Indian automotive sector had been reactive rather than proactive. We've always been looking to brands out of the east or the west for the coolest forms of tech or vehicles, and we frankly thought it's time to change that storyline, right? And from that point till date, I think what we really have as key differentiators in Ultraviolette is all of the core IP is held in-house. Over 100 patents so far. A lot of it on the battery tech, the thermals, the controllers, all of the electronic side of things. Profitability or a path to profitability is also very important, and this also has been something we've stuck to right from day one, right from our first conversation with vendors and suppliers to our internal design decision making, was that hardware has to be profitable from the first product you sell. This is something we are one of the very few companies that have managed to pull it off with the first product, and of course, being a global brand is an ambition, and now that is starting to translate to reality. And to give you the whole journey in a nutshell, what you see behind me is what's happened over the last 7 years. Started, of course, with a few hundreds of concept sketches based on what the identity of electric needs to be, right? I mean, our responsibility was not just to create a cool bike. It's more about what Ultraviolette represents in terms of a futuristic identity for progressive individuals. So getting that aspect translated to a form language that works when you see the final machines was a great challenge that I think we managed to solve successfully. Created a very unique identity. The bike is very memorable right from the time you've first seen it to when you ride it. Quite timeless in what it looks like as well. But getting that to match the performance that it promises to deliver also was like a huge challenge for us to get past, right? I mean, our benchmarks weren't the other IC vehicles. Our benchmarks right from the start were the companies that had products in the 300 to 500 cc performance brackets, and our task was simply to be the best in that category. IC, electric comes secondary, right? So it's been a very interesting journey. Today we have a lot of suppliers and vendors who are crucial to making all of this happen within maintaining given costs and timelines, but we've gotten to that point now. Anything else, Neeraj, that you particularly think we should speak about here? I think what you see on the right is our production facility. Yeah, this reminds me, we were nearly good to go for production in 2019, December, and COVID hit by March 2020.
So we sort of saw COVID coming in January, towards the end of Jan 2020. And we were about to take these very large capex decisions on setting up a production facility, which we had to sort of stop in our tracks and say that if this is going to happen now, how are we going to change tracks and what are we going to do? And that's when we took the decision to sort of leapfrog the next generation of the vehicle development, because we knew we already had the R&D team in place, and what we had on our wish list, all of that came back into the development process, and before we could start production, we switched over to development, and that has turned into the vehicle. So which is why if you see the reviews, if you see customer feedback, it's a very, very mature product. People find it hard to believe that this is a startup that has created this. This feels like, some very large company which has a lot of heritage and engineering background and all of that, they've created this product. So that's the final outcome that we have, right? Now, along the way, we also ended up building a lot of core technology which was fundamental to building the motorcycle. So as much effort, resources, time, engineering went into building out the battery packs as the rest of the vehicle, because this is sort of core to the existence of the electric vehicle, right? So what you see on the screen are actual battery packs from different stages of development, from smaller modular batteries which were removable to larger battery packs. So we started with a goal of having more than 100 kilometers, 130 kilometers of range on a motorcycle, and we ended with a production motorcycle which had in excess of 300 kilometers of range on a single charge, right? And all of this capability and engineering skill and design and validation sort of had to come in, and this came in from various perspectives. So the way that we were able to build this out was kind of because of the team that we built out. So if you see what is the secret sauce of Ultraviolette, it's actually the team, right? So while we were looking for people who had, we couldn't find really people who had built electric vehicles, right? You couldn't find people who have built high-powered battery packs or very high energy density battery packs. So we had to look at the fundamentals, and we identified folks who had worked in other domains in the aerospace industry, both on mechanical engineering as well as on the electronic side, avionics side, right? And a lot of those folks came into the company. We had a lot of other engineers come in from a consumer tech perspective, right? Companies like Samsung, Intel, NXP, and those capabilities came into the company, and over time we started to see the benefits, because all of them stuck around for several years. And it wasn't just incremental benefits. Of course, it was incremental every week, but over a period of 5, 6, 7 years, the kind of progress that we had was phenomenal, because we had different branches, different streams, different domains, and all of the expertise from all these domains coming in. Of course, there's a clash of cultures and all of that, but essentially what we got was the best of all of these different domains, and that's why we were able to create even the F99, which you also see on the screen today. Today, it goes beyond Ultraviolette. So today, the customers of Ultraviolette, they call themselves pilots. We have a squadron. So this photograph is of actual customer vehicles, right? So you've seen biking communities for, the petrol heads of the world, get together. Now you're starting to see the electric version of that coming together. And these people are so proud of owning their vehicles, which are, so high in terms of performance. They outcompete any IC engine equivalent, and they all come together to sort of promote electric vehicles, and they all ride together. Various activities happen, and this is a squadron that we're building out. This is started in 5 cities in India, and this is going to scale to the rest of the world as well, right? Now, just to give you a sense of what this means from a single customer point of view, right? So this is one of our customers. He's from Chennai, actually. He came to our Battery Day event the previous year in, I think, September, October of 2022. The moment he heard that we have vehicles that can provide 300 kilometers of range, he decided to buy it. And in June of this year, he's also a college professor. So before he could go back to college and start his schedule, he wanted to ride to Leh Ladakh in up north, right? So it's a 3,000 plus kilometer journey. So he covered the entire distance, Chennai to Leh Ladakh and back to Bangalore, in about 22 days, when the world is sort of filled with people who say electric vehicles can't do things. And we see a lot of this even in India today, saying that, oh, do you have charging stations? Do you have this? Does the company provide support? This customer sort of showed the way that with a product that really works well, in a single sort of trip, he covered about 7,000 kilometers and sort of showed the world that it's possible, right? While a lot of people complain about energy infrastructure, whatnot, he managed to do it because we provided the capability to charge with any 15 amp outlet anywhere in the country. Even if it's a small kirana shop or a dhaba, you can charge your vehicle. So he demonstrated that, and now he's sort of become the flag bearer for electric vehicles in India. He won 2 records, Asia Book of Records, the national records as well. And yeah, so this is kind of what has been happening. It's quite exciting. I think we spoke a little bit about various things because it's been a long 7-year journey, but there's, it all started somewhere, right? We showed a sketch, which Narayan mentioned was in 2017, 2016. But I think the real other part of it, which we didn't speak about, which we want to talk about now, is this, right? And this is where we were, right? Somewhere in Chennai, we were talking
Vishesh,
to...
I guess you recognize this.
Right, so I think...
This photo was 2017. And soon after we got Vishesh on board, I think this was while Speciale was still forming at that point. Yeah, and to give you some context, I mentioned that hardware in India was at a nascent stage. In our view, it still is, but thankfully, visionary folks like Vishesh and Arjun are now giving a lot of our community that opportunity to showcase that we can do remarkable things out of India. And same happened with us. We probably had over 300-400 meetings with multiple investors, VCs, etc. While we understand the anxiety or the fear of the unknown, it was very refreshing to see Vishesh believe in our abilities than look at an Excel sheet and have an opinion on it at that point, right? And I think this meant a lot to us. So Vishesh has continued to be a very involved member in the company. So is Arjun in terms of our strategy, our further fundraisers, and I think we can do another session on what we've encountered along the way. And
so I just want to add here, right? So Narayan just briefly mentioned this, that we had done a few hundreds of meetings with different potential investors, VCs, right? So here we noticed a trend, which was that if there was a previous success in another space, whether it's software, SaaS, it was easier to raise money in India. But to find people who could say that, I'll take this bet on you guys seem like you can do something, you seem to have the capabilities, and then see the result come out 7 years later, that was a hard call that Vishesh had to make. And he took that call multiple times. And frankly, very, very few other individuals we've come across. I think when we go to the next slide, you'll see the other individuals who also participated in this journey. But essentially, there are very few folks who can sort of see it through and take that kind of bet and see it actually execute till that point, right? And it's not like it's been an easy journey. There are like several hardships that we've encountered along the way. But to see the final production vehicle, to see it in the hands of customers, and to wait 7 years to make that happen, while the rest of the industry doesn't, necessarily believe in it, that takes some other kind of skill.
And even during the journey, right, our fundraise path wasn't that straightforward. This was a completely new idea in a new segment with new technology. So a lot of things that could potentially go wrong, and our job was to de-risk that step by step, right? And we're building a consumer-facing brand, so that comes with a certain different mindset towards building a brand on the other side as well, which India hasn't done so far in the tech or automotive space. So at multiple points where things sort of got a little tight, there were offers on the table that meant a few deviations from our original intent or what the North Star for us was. But I think we are very fortunate that Vishesh and Arjun, both of them said, guys, we go big or go home. And Vishesh, I hope this doesn't cause any other issues for you moving forward. But yeah, that's sort of the confidence that has helped us get to this point today as well.
And because Vishesh backed us, right, over time we found several other backers who acted in a similar manner. Even today, we're not saying our journey is sort of done, it's just getting started, right? Like there's so many challenges that we will face as we scale across different continents and countries. It's not an easy task, and some of these are year-long or 2 years or 3 years, they're going to take time to solve. But the sort of mindset that Vishesh came with, a lot of the other folks also started to join and be part of Ultraviolette. I think several of them are here today in the room, from Mr. Kumar Vembu, who's part of Go Frugal and Zoho, to we had TVS Invest as well, and most recently we had XOR Capital and Qualcomm Ventures. So Rama from Qualcomm Ventures also had been talking to us for some time, right? And all of these individuals sort of came together and sort of saw the long-term vision and participated. And we really have to thank Vishesh because that's where it all started. Right? Thank you.